So exactly as predicted, my quads and hamstrings have been turned into jelly after those heavy leg press sets. And I think the leg extensions had something to do with it. But that leg press was definitely the brunt of that quad damage, which I'm now feeling. Which is kind of the point, right? That is sort of a good thing. Because I need to basically build back up my resilience to the higher intensity training. And I don't mean higher intensity like, oh, I'm going to start doing Mike Metzer 2-set workouts. I just mean sets with more, just with more intensity, right? Heavier weight, more like drop set style stuff, more, rest, pause. Just even, really just kind of pushing these sets further. Because what I'm trying to do now is essentially stimulate whatever muscle I'm aiming at as hard as possible. Basically wreck it in a good way. Come home, and then use all the excess calorie surplus energy, plus a copious amount of sleep, to build back that tissue larger, stronger, right, with more sarcoplasm and intramuscular glycogen and every other, hypertrophy buzzword that you can freaking think of, But to break it down to what I consider honestly, kind of what I consider my approach to the lifting in general, right? I wouldn't say purely science-based, and I wouldn't say like purely ego lifter-ish. I think what I like to identify more so as looking at the lifting and the diet as a practical approach. And by practical, I mean like, how does it really work in the real world? We can talk about lengthened partials and muscular, hypertrophy differentials of studies of units and whatever. But let's be real. In any of those studies that are done, is it on guys who are exactly my build specifically? No, man, right? It's a guarantee because nobody has my specific build. So the way I look at the working out is like, it's not a complete mystery, We're not talking about like an enigma of trying to explain how a freaking bee can achieve flight with such a crazy body mass to wing size ratio. Like, it's not that complicated of something to figure out, but it is something which, if you figure out for yourself, you start to get a deeper understanding, and you can improve your own training and tweak it to you and your specific kind of nuances and details, and even just like personal preferences, So what the hell was I about to say? Training quads. Yeah. So thinking about it as a, as simple as I can put it, is I want to train hard to the point where I can leave the gym knowing, okay, I went hard. I'm satisfied with that lift. I've reached a level of exertion and intensity which I know is going to put me past the threshold into new gains. Nice. Then go home and eat accordingly. All right, so for me, that's going to be some extra food, a little bit of treats. There's a little bit of treats in there, that's for sure, but primarily just straight up protein with a carb and some kind of sauce to combine the two. So I'm going to be going for a lot of ground beef and potatoes, oatmeal. I gotta learn a good cream of rice. Not even a recipe, but just how to cook it, because cream of rice goes down so quick. Or no, cream of wheat. But every time I try to make it, it just turns into like a gooey glob. I need to actually look up like the right way. But little things like that. But as much as I just said all that shit about, really pushing it with the training, today with shoulders, not so much. Shoulders is a little more chill. And reason being is they're just, excuse me, they're just a little bit overdeveloped relative to the rest of me, especially my arms, right? But since my chest is still feeling a bit sore from when I last hit it, obviously I don't want to go into a chest day already sore. That'd be stupid. Clearly my chest has not recovered yet. So I'm going to make today a shoulder day. A little honestly, I'd kind of categorize it as an active rest day in a sense, because the amount of damage and fatigue that I'm going to be essentially dealing myself with these sets of side laterals and rear delt flies and like face pulls and stuff, it's really not that wild, you know. So that's kind of the plan for today. But over the course of these next probably few weeks, I should build back up to my standard kind of fighting shape in terms of like heavy squats, heavier pressing, you know, heavier rowing. Because right now, I've been running off of at least the last 3 months of lighter squeezing training. Because all I've been trying to do is maintain the muscle that I've built and lose body fat on the outside of it. But now, I want to get it back into a good kind of, I mean, really just stronger state of being and gradually get exposed to heavier and heavier and more intense lifts until I'm back to my regular kind of baseline, if you sort of catch my drift. So it's like, you know, if you used to be a freaking beast back in your college days, I'm talking defensive lineman, right? Odds are you were moving some pretty serious weight around. But, you know, maybe you get out of the gym, all your sarcoplasm and glycogen are kind of deflated back to normal. But what happens with muscle growth is it's not just purely, you know, changing how swollen your muscle fibers are. The longer you lift, you actually develop more muscle fibers, right? New myonuclei, as it were. So if you've never worked out or if you haven't worked out for like a few years, but you used to be really on your shit, dude, guess what? You can build yourself back up to at least a pretty reasonable state in terms of your training much quicker than somebody who's never done it before, right? That's kind of getting into some of the muscle memory side of things. And it's still going to take a while, you know, just because you used to be freaking jacked like a brick shithouse, and now you've kind of gone back to, you know, kind of a regular guy looking build. It's going to take a while, because obviously week one of working out hard, I mean, the weights are still going to feel extra freaking heavy. You're going to be extra sore. I mean, even right now, I'm kind of feeling it. Not even from not working out, but just from working out lighter for the last few months. Like, even trying to push it now, like that leg press, the one I did yesterday with the stack, usually that doesn't feel like a working weight until I've already done like 4 or even like 5 really like 5 really heavy sets of, like, you know, Smith machine squats or weight loaded like sled leg press. So you know, I'm still building up my strength there. But since you've already done it before, it'll happen at a much quicker rate than for somebody, you know, who's never actually hit the gym. So it's like, you know, let's say you're part of my 40 and older demographic, or maybe younger, you know, it depends on how quick you popped out a little one. But like if you got a 16-year-old and he's like, hey dad, you know, you should come to the gym with me. Hey, if you used to lift and you kind of got out of it now, but you know, you're getting back into it, or maybe he's bringing you back into it with him, you're gonna surpass him pretty quick, because you've already made those gains before, right? So it's like driving somewhere that you've already driven to. You don't need the directions. You still remember where you're turning, you know. So just a little bit of a tidbit of intel there. But I mean, if you've already worked out before, you already know this, so no need to explain there. But I can guarantee that within 30 minutes from unpacking my bag, getting a sip from the water fountain, I am going to have a rather freaky shoulder pump. But these shoulder days are going to become a little bit more sparse over the coming weeks and months, just because I'm not really going to need to hit them as much, you know. Oh man, I want to leverage more arm, chest, and back development. Shoulders so far are kind of the front runners of my torso. But no more chatting. Let's just get in there. Having some carbs in my system feels freaking great. Even though my legs are still thrashed from yesterday, even just the feeler rep of this face pull, I like it a lot. So what I'm trying to focus on here is, well, obviously rear delts, but I don't want to use any traps, you know. So I'm essentially doing a row, right, just here. So my traps are right there. They could definitely take over if I let my form get a little too sloppy. So what I'm trying to imagine is laying down and keeping my shoulders, like the actual ball joint of my shoulder, in the exact same spot. Don't move it forward or backward at all, and just rotate my arm, right? Because that's what your rear delt is doing, right? It's just rotation along this little point of, well, what do you call it? Point of rotation, whatever. But I want to go heavy enough that I can really feel it. But if I go too heavy and I start using my traps, you got to pull it back, lighten the weight. But let's get started. Boy. Boy. Yo. Do. Yeah. Do. Do. Yeah. 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 Okay, that's good. Be more like that. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Two. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right. Let's put this bench back and do some bent over rear delt lateral flies. That'll be good. So sometimes I do these standing, but seated works kind of well too. A little more controlled, because now instead of like swinging, there's not really much room for swinging when you're just sitting down in this position here. But really the same logic as with those face pulls. Like, it looks kind of funky, but it's kind of the exact same movement. Right? I'm just sitting here, bent over. The load is pulling away from me, and I'm just trying to rotate my shoulders here and feel my rear delts really flex. And with these ones, with the dumbbells, I don't mind being a little more swinging-ish, because these are kind of more almost a nasty set that I'm trying to like build fatigue with. And it's a good contrast to those face pulls, because those are much slower, full on like 1 second hold, slow, eccentric. So this is almost a little more, let's just say, pump inducing. But honestly, if 2 of these feel good, that'll be enough and I'll move on. But if I think 3 is necessary, I'll do that instead. I kind of have to wait until I've done those 2 sets to make that decision. Because if I lock myself in to say, okay, I'm only going to do 2, but then I could probably benefit and get a little more pumped and a little more fatigued in a good way from doing 3, it's like, why would I limit myself before I even get to that position? Like, that's why I don't like having the workout totally decided before I come to the gym, because, like, you know, let's say maybe my shoulder feels kind of funky or something, and I wouldn't have wanted to do those laying face pulls. I'd have no idea until I actually came to the gym, warmed up, got my hands physically on the machine, and saw how I felt. So I'm just more concerned with, it's almost like I'm steering through icebergs with a ship, right? It's like one course isn't always going to be exactly perfect every time. You got to be able to make little adjustments. But no more talking. No more talking. Come on. And these are just the 40s. Yeah. No. 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 Okay. Oh my gosh. One more minimum. I'll see if that's all, if that'll be the last one in a second. Okay, that's good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's enough for rear delts, I think. Time for some laterals, god dang it. I think let's start with the machine over there. Change it up from the dumbbells. All right, let's exert some, or let's employ some caution. Start with just half the stack, slow and squeezing, and go from there. Okay, that's good. Yeah, shit. Let's do a few more like that. Don't even need to raise the weight. 110 with an extra 15 from the adjustable. That is perfect. Oh, yeah, okay. Holy crap. I gotta freaking drop the weight. Let's lose that 15 and just do a straight up 110. And after this, let's go grab some dumbbells or something. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh. Let's grab some dumbbells. Oh, you have to go that heavy too. I already did all this damage here. I might only grab the 30s. And that is fine by me. I think let's just grab the 40s and go nuts in a reasonable manner. So when I say reasonable, I mean like, I'm not going to say like crazy, but I'm not going to go super slow either. Kind of a middle ground, just a classic kind of set. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh. One more of those, minimum. But those felt pretty freaky. I mean, I feel like I got shoulder pads on. This is great. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's enough of that. This is good lighting right here. Let's see how they're looking all pumped up. All right. So, even just through the shirt, only 1 week into eating some extra freaking grub, I'm already feeling rather bulbous, especially over the rear delt, kind of capping the shoulder backwards. Like, that's a really clear distinction of like trap to shoulder, which is really what I'm freaking aiming for. But let's see how shoulders are looking on their own. So they might honestly put my arms to shame a little bit now, because my shoulders are already kind of extra beefy. So to compare them with unpumped Sam arms, they've got an unfair advantage. We'll just say it like that. But yeah, feeling reasonably freaking pumped up for sure. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so that's what I'm aiming for. That line of shoulder separate completely from the tricep. Holy crap. Without a front delt pump too, it honestly kind of makes my shoulders look a little disproportionate. Like they're almost being pulled back and not so much forward. But that is freaking fine with me. Everybody's got freaking way too powerful front delts anyway. You gotta spam those reverse flies in tandem with the face pulls. I think those are really with the bread and butter. And I'm lucky enough, I don't remember where I learned it from, but even early, like year one of Sam getting pumps, I had it instilled in my mind to slam rear delts just as hard as side delts, just as hard as front delts. And the sooner you get that into your mind, the better. I feel like rear delts get neglected just because people don't put enough value on them, right? Because it's like, when you think of training shoulders, we're thinking of nasty lateral raises or shoulder press, right? Face pulls and rear dumbbell flies, they don't come to mind as much, but they should. So that's sort of the note that I'll leave you with. But let's get out of here. That was a good old shoulder pump. Ooh, don't do it. Nice. I thought the guy was about to park right in the spot I was gonna pull forward from. Very nice for me. But yeah, that was good. That was good. I think I'll shoulders for me are kind of a nice relaxed lift, because I'm not going crazy, and all I have to do is pump them up and, you know, go pretty hard. So anytime I think a rest day is in order, but I don't want to totally take it easy, like I need to chill, maybe, like let's say today was supposed to be, well actually today was supposed to be a chest day, right? But my chest is still recovering from the last lift, so I don't want to just totally skip a lift completely, but I can't hit chest because it's freaking encumbered, right? So throwing some shoulders in between, that's all right. I was gonna make it a shoulders and forearm day, but I don't really feel like doing the forearms today. We can cut it at shoulders, make it a little more chill. If you could. I'm sure I'll be yawning a little less frequently over these next couple of days. I feel like I'm still in recovery from all the show stress. I don't mean like mental stress. I mean like just the physical, like running around the expo, you know, talking with everybody, and plus the bodybuilding show beforehand, and kind of getting back from there. So we're still in that phase of not rehabilitation, but acceleration, right, back to full speed. But these lifts, yeah, the actual like subjective enjoyment for me of doing these with carbs, with more energy, with more muscular endurance, yeah, it's it's a night and day difference, that's for freaking sure. But right now is the easy part, right? So with these lifts, you know, like I say every time with or I guess I don't say it that much, but when it comes to the going back and forth between like an off-season gaining phase and a dieting phase, when you switch gears, that's the most comfortable state, right? So of course, I just finished a long dieting phase. My appetite is rearing to go. Personally, I'm hungry as a mofo, right? Opening the floodgates, getting some food into my system, going from flat and depleted to carved up and full, having some full-ass lifts, plus pretty much being solidly lean still. There's no downsides. Now, eventually, this dieting phase, just like the cutting phase before, like this bulk, will get difficult in its own way, right? To continue to push the food and continue to try to leverage my weight gain will become harder and harder and harder. Like the reason I don't just bulk for years straight, it's impossible for me. I can't do it. Like I can only gain weight and reach a certain threshold of like size at a time, where now my whole like digestion, or like what's the word I'm thinking of, like just gut health and everything else has like been kind of pushed to its limit. I can only eat so much, and then it's like I'll reach a point where I just can't gain any more weight. And part of that is definitely just on me, like, oh, just eat more food, right? But there is kind of a limit. There's a limiting factor of just how much I can gain and how heavy I can get at once, which usually puts me around that 5-month mark. Like 3 months, steady weight gain, no problem. Month 4 starts to slow down a little bit. And then usually month 5, I'm reaching a plateaued state. But that's with my kind of hardcore, maybe not hardcore, but like heavy bulking phase, right? All my last ones, I never mind getting too soft. I think with this one, I want to be a little more in moderation and ease into higher calorie days a little bit slower, right? Because my maintenance calories is right here. For me to eat enough food to gain weight, it's up here. It's more than maintenance. It is a surplus. But there's no reason to eat a massive surplus and then essentially just store body fat for no reason. Like I do think there's benefit to an actual like dedicated period of time for weight gain and eating in a surplus. But if you overdo it, right, you're setting yourself up for failure, because now you just, sure, holy crap, bro, I gained 40 pounds this bulk. If 15 pounds of that is just straight body fat, now you've got a serious chore to deal with if you want to diet back down and reveal the muscle that got built underneath. You know, so there's a sweet spot of bulking where it's like you're gaining weight steadily, but you're not getting too soft, right? Because I don't want to gain 20 pounds of body fat. Not only would that suck to have to lose, but then I'm not going to be as lean. Now, usually I don't have a problem with that. Like I don't end up, like my appetite isn't big enough where I just start putting on body fat like nobody's business, like I'm about to hibernate. But I definitely can get pretty soft. I mean, there's a, if you go back to the last, I think it was the last day of whatever the last bulk was, like summer bulk, I don't know, whatever the last bulk was, there's a good thumbnail and a little like final pose down that I did. I was pretty soft, that's for sure. So, I mean, that doesn't bother me personally, like that's just the nature of bulking. But if I can gain the same amount of muscle, or at least just about the same, and be a touch leaner, yeah, man, I'm all for it. But the problem is, don't get too caught up in what I would consider the main gaining fallacy, because eventually, just eating a regular amount of food, like eating when you're hungry, maybe having a protein shake here and there, and lifting hard, that's going to work for a while, right? That's what I did for like 3 years. It worked out pretty well. But my weight gain started to slow down. Like my progression wasn't really keeping up with what it used to be in the beginning, right? Because if your situation and like the stimulus that you're giving yourself with your diet, your training, your recovery, if it's the same and it doesn't change and adapt over time with how big you are or how developed you get, then it's not going to work anymore, right? I mean, it's like you've got a series of sprinkler systems, right? Like those, it's got that little glass ampule that's blocking the water from spraying everywhere, and it has to reach like 180 degrees to burst, those, and this is a really specific reference, maybe it's a little too weird, but those come in different degrees of temperature thresholds, right? Like there's ones where they don't actually burst and start spraying water until the freaking thing gets to like 400 degrees, So if you've got a little lighter and you put it up to that low temperature one, it's going to burst. Oh, it worked, right? You're making gains. Maybe it'll work for the next one. Maybe it'll work for the next one. But making gains, making muscular progress, it's a diminishing endeavor, right? You have to basically push it harder the longer that you work at it, because gains get harder to get the more that you get them, It's like a leveling system in a game. It takes the amount of XP it takes to get to level 2 won't even put a dent into getting from like level 30 to level 31, So all I'm trying to say is look at your situation objectively. If you're no longer making any noticeable progress, and I don't even mean like on a year-to-year basis, I mean like month to month. If you're making progress, you should see changes on a month-to-month basis. So if you're not seeing anything changing, then what that means is that your situation, your training, your recovery, your diet, everything that goes along with it isn't enough. It's just enough to stay where you are, but it's not enough to push yourself into new territory, right? Either larger, stronger, faster, whatever you're training for specifically. So for me, that's a pretty cut and dry explanation. Shit, man, the scale isn't going up. I gotta get some more food in my system, and vice versa. Oh crap, I've been the same weight for the last 2 weeks. I've been eating too much freaking food. I gotta cut it. I gotta pull back on the calories, which that I think is actually trickier than the eating more food, because at least eating more food is fun. It's like, oh geez, I gotta have another big ass turkey sandwich. I gotta have another big bowl of ground beef and rice with barbecue sauce. Oh geez, I gotta have a few more Reese's cups today. Oh, come on. That is much easier of a situation than like, all right, I hit my limit, 1,800, no more food for me. That's a little trickier. I've, usually I think to myself that I'm right in the middle. Like I can bulk pretty hard and I can diet pretty hard. And I can kind of do both with relatively balanced difficulties. But getting into like, bodybuilding show level leanness, like I was going to do a DEXA scan, but it was kind of tricky to schedule it exactly when I'd, because like the last couple days before the show and everything, I was trying to get extra focused. So I don't really know what my actual body fat percentage was. I was definitely I was maybe 7. I don't know. I definitely was not below 4. That's for sure, because that is lean. But I was probably in like the, maybe 7 or 6. And body fat percentage as a number, it's not always everything. There's a lot at play, because I could have the same amount of body fat, like if you squeeze me, caliper wise, I could have the same amount as the guy who's like 50 pounds lighter than me. But since I've got more muscle and the body fat percentage is just a ratio of how much body fat you have relative to your overall weight, then we could look the same level of like leanness and vascularness or whatever, but I'd be leaner purely because I have more muscle. So it's kind of I don't read into it too much, right? Don't freak out about trying to calculate it like that. Just look at it as like how you look, right? That's a little more accurate. It's like, all right, you're a little soft. All right, man, you're pretty lean. I can see some abs. All right, dude, you're pretty lean. All right, you got some freaking bicep veins going. Holy crap, bro, you're shredded. Actually, what do you think? What's leaner, shredded or diced or peeled? A lot of adjectives in there for how lean you can get. But either way, I don't have to worry about that for quite a while. I am more than comfortable putting some size on, which is going to be my primary endeavor for the next few freaking months. Actually, pretty much indefinitely. All right, we'll just see what happens in terms of when I'll peel back and get extra lean again. But not for a freaking while. So I think I'll see you for chest tomorrow. Or something else, I don't know. If my chest is still sore, then I'm not going to do chest. But either way, I'll see you then.